Louisiana man who police say shot and killed 8 children. 7 of those victims were his own children, as well as critically wounding his wife and another woman.
I don't know how to act because I've lost 8 parts of me.
So I know that there was some infidelity. She came to me and she asked me about helping her properly file for divorce.
There is a photograph. A man and his 7 children. Easter Sunday, April 5th, 2026. All of them dressed up, fresh out of church. Little bow ties, little dresses, smiles lined up across the couch, like a row of lights someone forgot to turn off. 2 weeks after that photograph was taken, 8 children would be dead. 7 of them are in that picture. This is the story of Shreveport, Louisiana. April 19th, 2026. The worst morning this city has ever lived through. And the question that keeps everyone awake, the question that doesn't go away no matter how many times you ask it, how does a father get there? To understand April 19th, you have to go back further, much further. Shamar Elkins was born on January 1st, one in Shreveport. He never left. Cedar Grove was his neighborhood, his block, his entire world. His biological mother, Mahalia, was a teenager battling a crack cocaine addiction when he was born. She couldn't raise him. A family friend named Betty Walker stepped in and became the woman who actually shaped the boy, his stability, his foundation, the closest thing to solid ground he would have for years. In 2013, at 18 years old, he enlisted in the Louisiana Army National Guard. He served for 7 years as a signal support system specialist and a fire support specialist roles that involve coordinating weapon systems and operating under pressure. He was never deployed overseas. In 2020, he left as a private, the lowest enlisted rank, no medals, no combat record, and no documented transition support when the uniform came off. He came home to the neighborhood, got a job at UPS, and built what looked from every angle that mattered to the people who loved him like a full life. He was a father 7 times over. 3 boys, 5 girls. His wife, Shaniqua Pugh, was the mother of most of those children. He also had a girlfriend, a woman named Christina Snow, who lived less than half a mile away on Harrison Street, and with whom he had 3 children of his own. 2 households, 7 children with his name attached to them. An 8th, a cousin who moved in and out of the West 79th Street house, the way kids do when families are close. On the outside, it looked like a man who was trying, but a co-worker at UPS named Willie Vasher noticed something that didn't fit the picture. On the back of Shamar Elkins' head, there was a bald spot, not from genetics, from stress. He pulled his own hair out, strand by strand, throughout the workday every single shift. His mother had noticed it too. Everyone saw it. Nobody asked what it meant. In 2019, Shamar Elkins pulled a 9mm handgun from his waistband near Caddo Magnet High School and fired 5 shots at a vehicle. Children were playing outside, less than 300 feet from where those bullets landed. He claimed the driver had pointed a gun at him first. The school property charge was dismissed. He pleaded guilty to illegal use of a weapon and received 18 months of probation. No prison, no mandatory treatment. He walked out of that courtroom and went back to his life. Under Louisiana law, that conviction legally barred him from possessing firearms until at least 2029. That is a fact. The ATF is currently investigating how he obtained both the small caliber handgun and the rifle-style pistol he used on the morning of April 19th. That question has not yet been answered. And there's one more thing you need to know before this story gets to Sunday morning. Before Shamar and Shaniqua were ever married, before the ring, before the vows, before the first child Shaniqua had considered leaving him, and when she did, he told her directly, if she ever left, he would kill her, their children, and himself. She heard that threat. She stayed. They were married in April 2024. When she finally filed for divorce 2 years later, citing infidelity confirmed directly to CNN by Elkins' own brother-in-law, Troy Brown, that threat, which had been sitting inside their relationship since before the wedding, became the blueprint for what happened on Sunday morning. 12 hours later, those children would be dead. To understand what happened inside Shamar Elkins between Easter Sunday and the following Saturday night, you have to understand the architecture of the pressure that had been building for months. It starts in February 2026, 2 full months before the shooting. Shamar attempted to take his own life. This was confirmed by Betty Walker, the woman who raised him, directly to the New York Times. After the attempt, he was admitted to a VA facility for mental health treatment. He was released. The family said he came home happy. But happy is not healed. 10 days after his release, he posted on Facebook publicly, visible to anyone reading his page, asking God to guard his mind and his emotions when negativity arose. That post is not ambiguous in retrospect. It was a man still in crisis who had already tried to end his life once and was looking out loud for a reason not to try again. People scrolled past it because the man posting that prayer was the same man posting Easter family photos, the same man doing daddy-daughter dates. You don't think a man like that is about to snap? You just don't. Easter Sunday, April 5th, Shamar called his mother Mahalia and his stepfather Marcus Jackson. He was crying. He told them Shaniqua had filed for divorce and that he was drowning in dark thoughts. His stepfather told him he could beat it. And Shamar replied with the line that has haunted that family ever since. Some people do not come back from their demons. That call ended. Nobody dialed a crisis line. Nobody called police. Most families in that moment do exactly what they did, because most of the time, that call doesn't end the way this one did. This time, it did. That's why I need you subscribed before we go any further. These children deserved someone paying attention. The least we can do is make sure the next story doesn't get buried. Hit subscribe. Share this video with somebody who needs to see it. Take 5 seconds, then stay with me. The last time Betty Walker, the woman who raised him, saw Shamar Elkins was the weekend before the shooting. He brought his entire family to her house for dinner. She said he seemed completely normal. When her phone rang on Sunday morning, she said, my babies are gone." His mother Mahalia texted him the Tuesday before the shooting, asking about the children. He replied that everyone was doing okay. On Thursday, she texted, "I love y'all. Give my grandson and my granddaughters a kiss from Grandma." He never texted back. He was already inside whatever had closed around him. Troy Brown, his brother-in-law who lived with him, heard him in those final days repeating the same thing over and over. "Bro, I do not want to lose my wife." Brown said it was unlike anything he had ever heard from Shamar in all the years they had known each other. On Saturday afternoon, April 18th, Shamar sat on his front porch and watched his children play in the yard. At 9 o'clock that night, Brown left for work. Shamar was calm. Somewhere between that moment and 5 o'clock in the morning, in the dark hours of a house full of sleeping children, a decision was made. Not a crime of passion, not a snap. A decision. Saturday night, April 18th, the block did what every American neighborhood does on a Saturday night. Cars settled into driveways. Televisions shut off. The block went quiet. Inside the house on West 79th Street, 8 children were settling in. Cousins and siblings curled up together, the way kids do when there's a house full. Sariahh Snow, 11 years old, the oldest, the helper. Markaydon Pugh, 10. Layla Pugh, 7. Kayla Pugh, 6. Khedarrion Snow, 6. Braylon Snow, 5. Shamar Elkins, 5. Jayla Elkins, 3 years old. A toddler, still learning her full sentences. 5 o'clock in the morning, Sunday, April 19th, 2026. The first scene was not on West 79th Street. According to police, Shamar Elkins went to Harrison Street first, to the home of Christina Snow, his girlfriend, the mother of 3 of his children. He shot her multiple times. He shot her in the head. She was still breathing when officers eventually reached her, but the rounds he put in her were the kind you have to fight for hours to survive. He took their 3 children from that house and left. He then got into a vehicle and drove. Harrison Street to the 300 block of West 79th Street is approximately a quarter of a mile. 5 minutes at that hour with no traffic. A quarter mile between the 2 women in his life and the 8 children about to die in between. He walked into the house on West 79th. His wife, Shaniqua, was there. He shot her in the face. She survived. She would spend days in a hospital bed with a bullet wound, fighting her way back. Then he kept going. The children were asleep. According to the Shreveport Police Department, most of the children appeared to have been shot in their beds, shot in the head, one after another. A small caliber handgun, 7 little bodies. One child tried to get out through the back door. Bullet holes were found in that back door when investigators processed the scene. One child made it to the roof of the house next door. He climbed up there trying to find safe, trying to disappear, trying to be anywhere else on Earth. He was shot on that roof. His body stayed there until the sun came up, and officers started searching for everyone who was missing. Shaniqua's sister, Pugh, was in that house that night. So was Keosha's 12-year-old daughter, who was Troy Brown's daughter. Both of them made it to the roof. Both of them jumped. Both sustained broken bones. Both survived. Keosha managed to call a family member while it was still happening, screaming that he had shot and killed the kids. At 5:55 in the morning, Shreveport police received the first call, a disturbance at West 79th Street. The caller said they were on top of a house, that a male had been shot inside. At 5:58, a second call. The suspect was a relative of the caller. At 5:59, dispatch was told that approximately 9 people resided at that location. At 6 a.m., the caller advised that Shamar Elkins had shot everyone inside the home. At 6:01, officers arrived on the scene. By the time the first units pulled up, Shamar Elkins was already gone. Near the intersection of Linwood Avenue and West 79th Street, he carjacked a red Kia Sportage. He took the car and drove south. Behind him in that house, 7 children dead in their beds. 1 child dead on a roof. 2 women bleeding in 2 separate homes. A teenager on the ground outside. And Shaniqua's sister on the lawn with broken bones, still on the phone. At 6:07 a.m., a second call came in a shooting on the 500 block of Harrison Street. A woman reporting that her boyfriend had shot her, taken her 3 children, and fled. At 6:08, she identified the suspect as Shamar Elkins. At 6:10, dispatch linked the 2 scenes. Traffic units spotted the stolen Kia Sportage traveling southbound on Interstate 49. It crossed the Red River Bridge into Bossier City. Officers followed. Somewhere in that car, on that bridge, Shamar Elkins drove away from everything he had built and everything he had destroyed, into the thin gray light of a Sunday morning he had been planning for days. At 6:29 inches the morning, officers made contact with Shamar Elkins through an exchange of gunfire on Brompton Lane, Bossier City. At 6:30, units confirmed contact at the 400 block. At 6:40, officers advised that the suspect vehicle was empty. Christina Snow's 3 children were not inside. They had not been taken with him. They were safe. At 7:03 a.m., Shamar Dewan Elkins was pronounced deceased at the scene. 3 officers had discharged their weapons. Shreveport police later made an honest admission at a press conference. It is unclear whether Elkins died at the hands of the officers or whether he ended things himself with the rifle-style pistol he had brought to that final exchange. The Louisiana State Police were called in to investigate the officer-involved shooting. No officers were harmed. He never sat in a courtroom. He never heard the charges read aloud. He never faced the families of the 8 children he had killed. The court date that had been scheduled for April 20th the morning after came and went without him. The detectives will spend months trying to answer the question everyone in Shreveport is asking, but the forensic record of the warning signs is not hard to read. The system had this man on record twice for criminal offenses. It had a February 2026 suicide attempt known to the people who raised him. It had a VA release back into an active crisis, back into the same dissolving marriage, the same financial pressure, the same 2 households. It had a Facebook post visible to anyone who followed him, publicly asking God to guard him from darkness. It had a confirmed divorce filing for infidelity. It had a court date scheduled for the following morning. And it had a pre-marriage death threat spoken directly, plainly, to the woman who eventually became his wife, that described with perfect accuracy what he would do if she ever tried to leave. Every single one of those things was a door the system could have walked through. The 2019 conviction legally barred him from owning firearms until 2029. He had 2 guns on him that morning. Nobody went back to check. Over 30% of crimes in Shreveport are domestic. Over 30% of murders in Shreveport are domestic. Domestic violence is not a private matter. It never was. It began between 2 adults in a failing marriage, and it ended with 8 caskets, small enough to be carried by a single pallbearer each. Troy Brown, Shamar's brother-in-law, who had lived in that house, whose son died in those rooms, whose daughter was the 12-year-old who jumped from the roof, said through tears, "I am never going to get to throw the football with him again." These were 8 babies, precious babies, babies that I helped raise daily. Christina Snow survived. She has undergone surgery and is expected to live. She gave investigators a full account of what happened at her front door before sunrise. Shaniqua survived. She was in a hospital bed with a bullet wound to her face, fighting her way back to her children who were no longer there. A 71-year-old man who has lived on that same street since 1991 said he had never heard of anything like this happening there, not once in 35 years. The Louisiana Governor's Love One Louisiana Foundation covered all funeral costs for the 8 children. The Community Foundation of North Louisiana launched survivor funds. Hundreds gathered for a vigil. City Councilman Grayson Boucher noted that in a single morning, 1 man, 1 house, more than doubled the city's homicides for the entire year of 2026. Mayor Tom Arsenault called it simply maybe the worst tragic situation Shreveport has ever had. The men with microphones said all the right words. The problem with the right words is that the right words don't bring 8 children back. 8 children went to bed on a Saturday night in a neighborhood called Cedar Grove. Sariahh, the oldest, the helper, 11, Markaydon, 10, Layla, 7, Kayla and Khedarrion, both 6, Braylon and Shayla, both 5, and Jayla, 3 years old, still learning her full sentences. If you are in a relationship where the anger is getting louder, where the control is getting tighter, where the threats are starting to feel real, the National Domestic Violence Hotline is 1-800-799-7233. It doesn't matter what time it is. It doesn't matter how small the thing feels. If you are the friend or the neighbor of someone in that situation, don't assume the Easter photo means everything is fine. Sometimes the loudest cry for help is the quietest post on a Tuesday afternoon. Betty Walker, the woman who raised Shamar Elkins, who last saw him bringing his whole family to her house for dinner, who got the phone call on Sunday morning, she said, my babies are gone." Those were not his babies she was mourning. Those were all of ours. I want to pause here because I think about this a lot and I genuinely don't know the answer. If someone you love calls you crying, tells you they're drowning in dark thoughts, and then says, some people don't come back from their demons, what do you actually do? Do you call the police on your own family member? Do you force a hospital stay they don't want? I'm not asking to be provocative. I'm asking because that family is going to carry that question for the rest of their lives, and I think most of us would have done the same thing they did. Tell me in the comments what you think the right move is, because I don't think there's a clean answer, and that is part of what makes this so devastating. This time, it did. Subscribe for more.